Hello everybody! This video is the second part of another video. So, if you haven't seen the first part, I kindly suggest you to watch it, because otherwise you might miss some things in this video. So, I linked it below. If you don't want to watch it, continue with the video, but you might miss something. So, I'll tell you again that the things that I'm going to show you in this video is that thing that allowed me to improve dramatically in all tracks. Once I learned it, I went from 1 to 4 seconds faster in every circuit. And I was not going slow. I was already going not bad. So I went from taking 6 seconds from the pro riders, from taking 2 to 3 seconds from them. And that's a big step forward. Now let's do a recap. In the previous video, we have seen how by shifting the braking point a bit forward, but mostly by bringing the braking until the middle of the corner and then turning the bike, we find ourselves gaining time in the corner entry, and we find ourselves with the bike in the middle of the corner already pointing the exit of the corner. So now it's time to accelerate. This way, not only we can accelerate earlier, but we also risk less to have a high side. Now we have to accelerate and exit the corner. And here comes the big discovery that I had last year. I mean, it's not a discovery, pro riders already know it, but for me, it was a very important realization. I mean that I finally realized how to do it. What I understood is that with the throttle, we can make the bike turn. Let's think for a moment about the high side. So we're going straight, we accelerate too much, we lose the rear, okay? And the next frame is the rider flying in the air and hoping not to break anything. But think about it, if we were like this, just before having the high side, we are like this. So the bike is turning much more, okay? So the thing is that if we are able to make the rear drift a little bit, just a bit, and control it, the bike is turning much better and much faster. So last year I finally started to understand the thing and to practice it in order to learn how to do it. I'm still not doing it the best way possible. I don't know how many riders are doing it best, but I'm doing it and it's giving me big results. So let's go back to the PC and see it. So let's go back to this image that I did for the previous video. Now, we have seen how you enter the corner and now we see how we accelerate. So when the amateur points the throttle, I don't know if you say point the throttle. In Italian is puntare il gas. I don't know. I mean, when the amateur keeps the constant throttle, what happens? If you ride a bike, you know that when you're leaning and you keep constant gas, what the bike does is it goes wide. If you close the gas, the bike turns, okay? So if you start accelerating here and keeping the gas constant, the bike never turns. It wants to go wide, you want to make it turn until you get here, then you see the exit and you start to accelerate. What I realized last year is that if instead of keeping the gas constant, as soon as you start to accelerate, you increase the throttle, you open the gas gradually, you increase the acceleration and you start to put the bike straight, the thing that happens is that the bike turns more, a lot more than keeping the gas constant. So instead of doing okay, if you do this, the bike turns. And look at this, the key is that the more you accelerate, the more you put the bike straight, the more you go out with your body. This is what all the pro riders are doing in MotoGP and Superbike when you see them with the bike straight and they all staying out with their body. Now, I'm gonna show you a couple examples, first from me, and then from the pro riders. Now, I'm in Cartagena, and just focus on this. As soon as I start to accelerate, just look at this part of the bike, and look at how it turns. Okay, Brake, 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 brake. I bring the brake into the corner just a bit. Whoa, have you seen it? Let's see it again. As soon as I accelerate, the bike turns. That's incredible. Another corner. Brake, 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 brake. Whoa! Have you seen it? So immediately, as soon as you pick up the gas and you increase it a bit, the bike turns. At that point, if you keep increasing it and putting the bike straight, the bike turns more. Look at this. Whoop! Have you seen it? Let's see it again. Look at how, when I do this, the bike turns more. Whoop! Another corner. Whoop! Let's talk about the pro riders. This is a friend of mine who is doing the Italian Championship. This is from 3 years ago at Imola. Look at how, for the whole corner, he keeps making the bike turn with the throttle. That's huge. Let's see Jonathan Ray in Misano. Michael Ruben Rinaldi in Misano. Whoop. So I remember the day I realized the thing for the first time. I was in Circuito Tatsuno Volari last year, the track where I did my first victory. And I remember that day I started to focus on doing this. Increasing the gas always a bit more, just to feel how the bike was turning. And I'm talking about feelings because it's what you have to focus on. It's all about feeling. The feeling that you have is that instead of keeping the gas constant and feeling the bike going wide, what you should feel is that once you start increasing the throttle and putting the bike straight, you feel something pushing you from the bottom. You see like somebody is pushing your butt. And you say, okay, why is that somebody is pushing my butt? That's the feeling that I realized I should be focusing on. So I want to show you this. I found this video on YouTube. Now look at what happens. Now with the cars, you all drive a car, I guess. When you accelerate, what happens? The G-force and the load transfer brings you to the back and the rear suspension compress. On the bikes, what happens? When you accelerate, you have the load transfer on the rear, but the rear suspension extends. You don't believe me? Look at this. Hey, look at how once you start to accelerate, the rear suspension extends. Whoa! And he compresses again. Do you see the force pushing him from the butt? Whoa! That's crazy. And you might be wondering why on the car the suspension compresses while on the bike it extends. Because of this. Yeah, I recorded this part a few days later and I cut my hair and my beard, so yeah. Whatever. I took this picture from the internet, I don't know where. This is an old Yamaha one. And look at this, I drew this line connecting the, I don't remember the name of this gearing and the center of the rear wheel. So, what happens? It happens that when you are accelerating, the engine is turning this gear, which is pulling the chain, which is making the rear wheel rotating. But this force that the chain is applying this way is actually trying to pull the rear wheel towards the front of the bike. So this effect, combined with the geometry of the suspension, with the height of the pivot, which is this dot here, where the rear swing arm is connected to the chassis, and the angle that the swing arm has and this line, I mean, this effect combined with a bunch of things that I don't want to go in depth, makes the swing arm rotate this way around the pivot and makes the rear suspension extends. So that's why when you are accelerating you feel like somebody is pushing you from the bottom, because the bike would love to squat because of the load transfer, but it's doing the opposite due to the effect of the chain. If you don't believe it, we can look at the telemetry from me in Misano. I am at the exit of the Rio turns. Look at this. As long as I start to accelerate and increase the acceleration, the yellow line is the rear suspension. Instead of going up, which means it's compressing, it goes down, which means it's extending. Also here, the acceleration goes up, the compression goes down. So the very important things to say are these. First of all, you have to practice step by step. So start slowly, because if you exaggerate, you might make a high side. The second thing is that once you start to accelerate, you always have to increase the throttle. Because the more you accelerate, the more the rear wheel drifts and the more the bike turns. But if you stop accelerating, the rear stops drifting. So you stop turning. Look at here. This is a mistake that I did in Misano. Look at the throttle. I lost the pole position for this. Look at this. Braking, 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 braking. I start to accelerate. And now I stop. And I went wide. Because you see, as long as I accelerated, the bike turned. You see it? Look at how... Whoop. Okay. At this point, I got here, and I don't know why, it was 9 in the morning, I was still sleeping. I stopped accelerating. And at this point, the bike stopped turning and went wide on the curb. See? It's not turning anymore. It's going wide, 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 wide. And not only I lost the line, I also lost speed on the straight. In that sector, I lost 0.7 seconds. If you look at a very pro rider like Jonathan Ray, braking, 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 braking. Oh, boom. Full throttle. Have you seen how the bike turned? Look at that, it's amazing. What are we talking about? If you look at Canepa with the telemetry, look at the throttle, look at how he never stops. It keeps always increasing. Another corner. Another corner. Boom. Amazing. Now, obviously, if we exaggerate with the throttle and we lose the rear, we need to lift a bit. Otherwise, we do a high side. Like here, look at the throttle. Have you seen it? And one thing that many people always say is that, okay, yeah, you can do that, you can drift like that because of the traction control. It's all the electronics. Nope, it's not the electronics, because look at this. Here, it's one lap from me last year. Here, if you see this red thing blinking, it means the traction is working. You can also see it here. If you doesn't see it either here or there, the traction control is not working. Look. Brake. Right corner. The light was always off. Same here. Same here. Whoop! Have you seen? Same here. And I was using the traction control set to 2, as you can see from here. But actually the map that we loaded was almost no traction. So it's not about the electronics. It's just about learning how to do it. And so the thing is that, okay, you may be wondering, how do I learn how to do it? How do I understand how much is not too much? One thing that helped me a lot is doing some flat track. Because if you ride with the flat track, you're always drifting. So you teach your brain how to get confident with losing the grip on the rear. So once you go back on track and you start doing it, and you start feeling the rear losing a bit, you're confident with that. So what I say is train on leaning, and instead of holding the gas constant, start to do this. Whoop. Increase the throttle and put the bike straight. Increase the throttle and put the bike straight. More and more until you feel the thing. It's really all about feeling. It's about feeling the push from the bottom. It's about feeling the rear turning, and it's about getting used to it and getting confident. So now, once I understood these things about braking, bringing speed into the corner, turning and accelerating and making the bike turn with the throttle, what did I do? I started to really truly understand them, to make them mine, and slowly, meter after meter, I kept shifting everything more forward. I started to brake a bit later, I started to corner a bit faster, I started to release the brake a bit later, I started to accelerate earlier, I started to accelerate harder, I started to put the bike more straight, you know, step by step. But really, all these things is about sensitivity. It's not something that I can say, okay, when you're cornering, put the butt out and push on the peg, okay? No, it's something that you need to learn to feel. It's all about doing more and more until you understand it, you make it yours. It's like walking, okay? I can tell you that if you want to walk, you have to put your foot like this, then the outer part, then the toes. The fingers are these, the toes are on the foot. I learned it. In Italian we call them the same. Then you have to push. Okay, you don't think about it. You just do it. Because you've been doing it for so much time in your life that you learned it. And this is the same. It's about feeling it. So step by step, do not rush things. Try it and start to learn how it works. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed these videos. And if you did, consider subscribing to the channel and helping me growing on YouTube. Bye bye guys, see you in the next video.